Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for being here with the family, and with the friends, and the stories, and the memories. Quick thought for tomorrow. If the family is at the service by 1:30, that's plenty of time. We're going to take everything to the church. So you don't need to worry about any of that. We'll have a place for you to gather at the church. I'm not exactly sure where, Pastor, but someplace. To gather at the church.
Yeah, I would imagine it'll be one of the rooms off that.
Okay, so.
I'll be there. I'll be there before the family.
Okay.
Make sure they have that.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, 1:30 is plenty of time. Please feel free to share this evening, laugh, cry, do all of the things, and we are thankful you're here with the family. Pastor?
Oh man, well, thanks for being here, for the opportunity that we have to talk about Jerys, to remember Jerys, to support the family, and just really have a moment in time to celebrate. And this has been a wild ride, crazy, and you just road tripped up and took a last road trip with him, and this is an opportunity to share those stories as you have moments. I pray you're brave tonight. Don't keep things to yourself. This is one of those times where this is just beneficial for everyone to be able to talk about the things that you remember, the ways that he made you laugh, the memories that you had with the Enget family, and how powerful it is to be able to allow that to be one of the healing aspects of the way in which we do life. Because with Jerry's life, it was unconventional. And that's one of the best testimonies that I can think about in his life. And just, I was thankful to be his friend. And there's a couple passages of scripture I'm just going to open with. And then the 4 will be yours. Philippians 4, 6 and 7. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. We've done a lot of praying with Jerys and the family and everything. There's been a lot of prayers, and I know that's been an integral part of the way in which we battle. Tell God what you need. Tell him and thank him for all that he has done. And we're thankful for all the time that we have. Then you will experience God's peace. And I pray that all of us, in the midst of this moment, if you're not at peace, I pray that you'll know that Jerry's at peace. There's no reason to hold on to turmoil. Jerry's at peace. And that you would know God's peace. But the beautiful part about this is, and this is the last part I'll share on this, his peace will guard your heart and your mind as you live in Christ Jesus. And that's one of the promises we have, that if we know him, we'll be with him. And Jerys is with him. And that's a beautiful reminder of who he was. But one of the verses that I dislike, and it comes out of James, where he just talks about consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of any kind. For that testing produces in us something that we need. And when we lose someone, it affects us. But it grows us if we allow it. Because then we can come along, 1 Corinthians talks about it, we can come alongside and help those that are mourning. And this is that moment for you. That as you help mourn, as you help say goodbye, as you just share memory, I pray that you'll be bold and brave to do that. So your time is now. I'm going to pray, and then the floor is yours. Heavenly Father, thank you so for a day that didn't catch you by surprise, but a day we wish we didn't have to be here for this, but we are. So I pray that we would be reminded that we're here for each other. We're here for the Engets. We're here to remember, to celebrate, to share laughter, and to share memories that are so powerful because they're the ones that we shared with somebody that we loved and we cared about so much. May you just allow your peace and your presence to be so present and so heavy here in this moment. We ask this in your name. Amen. I'd love for someone to go ahead and lead us.
quite an age difference between him and I. It was 13 years difference, but Jerys was a blessing from the day he was born.
Because there was a
Well,
few babies.
At that moment, he was. My mom was not to have any more children. And if you know my mom, she was a pretty good sized woman. And she was actually 7 months pregnant before she even knew she was pregnant. And she called my dad. My dad always went to the office after he got off work. And she called him and told him he needed to get da home right now. And that was the story of Jerys being born. And I hear all these stories of Jerys being this golden boy right now. He was not the golden boy. He was the mischievous one out of the whole bunch when he was growing up. So, my niece Stacy, we were down for, it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, it was winter. And they had to go down to this park to go play on the swings and the slide, whatever. Well, Jerys decided to give her a little dare. Stacy, I bet you don't dare stick your tongue on that pole. Stacy did. So she come home, right. But he was always our favorite, I think. I have to say that in my heart, that he was the favorite, because he was the baby. And through the years, I moved away, but he always kept in contact with me when I was down south. He'd always have to call, of course I'd call Mom every Tuesday morning. But Jerys every once in a while would sneak a phone call in, give me a call, and I truly hold that in my heart, because he was always, even though I was too young to be his mother, he was still my baby. And he'll always be my baby. Just like Christ is with you.
I'll go and I'll stand here, but, Jerys, I had to write my thoughts about you, as I could ramble about all your funny stories and one-liners forever, but would never be able to repeat them as well as you. Your sense of humor was one of a kind, and I could hear Jerys saying, "No crying, girl." So, here I go. I'll try. So, I married into a childhood friendship circle of friends, Brian, Jerys, and Tammy, 26 years ago. And being from the local town of Tioga, the big school rival, this Epping and Ray blood welcomed me into their circle of friends. Through the years, we had some fun times growing together in our married lives, hanging out as couples, playing cards, eating out, watching Brian and Jerys roll their eyes as us girls were out on another shopping excursion, and listening to all the stories of Jerys and Brian's childhood and hunting shenanigans. I can't mention this. Brian mentioned many times Jerys loved fire. So if the sirens were ringing in Epping, Geraldine was looking for him. And Jerys always said, "Aaron, you would have loved my mother." It has been a pure joy watching Lexi, Kiana, and Rise growing up through the years. Jerys was so proud of you kids, and he was extremely proud to welcome a son-in-law and grandkids. Those grandkids are the apple of his eye. Jerys and Tammy were a huge support to us as we became parents. We will always admire Jerys for his ability to tell it like it is, his trustworthy, and his support. He taught us many things, as it reminded us at times to think outside of the box and sometimes just go for it and be a risk taker. His entrepreneurship was proven in many of his great qualities. Jerys and Tammy attended many of our kids' activities, and being Addison's godparent, Addison and Jerys held a special bond, and she looked at her godfather for advice. And Jerys, being the man, he wasn't, and he didn't sugarcoat it, anything, and he told it like it was. Jerys, we will miss our after-church lunches, as I'm thinking my son went to church only many times just to know that he would be having lunch with Jerys, and everyone would usually be rolling in laughter at some point, including the waiter or waitress. Again, to the doll and the Enget family, thanks always for including us. Tammy, my dear friend, I just want to talk to you for a moment. I truly admire you as a friend of mine to have watched the love of your life these last 11 months, suffer through this cancer, and through it all stay as positive for everyone around you and for Jerys. Keeping us all up to date through phone calls, text messages, Facebook, and I know it wasn't always easy to put those smiles on, and every day for you and Jerys. I will always admire you for your strength and your love. What a peaceful feeling. Jerys is not struggling no more, and a blessing that with our faith and eternal life that one day we will meet him in heaven. I believe Jerys is sitting in heaven with many of our loved ones right now eating homemade German chocolate.
Well, I'm Brian Johnson. I grew up with Jerys, and I got 4 stories. One is with Cookham's house, and Sharon Alexander was cooking. Jerys and I, we took the garbage out. We were downstairs playing video games, and we heard boom. And we go, what was that? And we walk upstairs, and brand new banana cream pie was gone off the shelf. And we go, Sharon, what happened? She says, it was 2 days old. I threw it in the garbage. We go, is that clean? Garbage sack that you just put in there? Yeah. So Chris Howard and I, Jerys, go over, pick the pie up, walk over, set it on the table, and we cleaned it up. And the one with Geraldine that sticks out of my mind is she had Cookham's house, and then she had the 2 video games, Pac-Man, and I don't remember what the Star Wars one was. But Jerys has always had to be number 1 on the Star Wars game. So he's playing that. You boys do the dishes. Okay. Right after this one, Mom. Okay. I go, Jerys, let's go. Oh, I'll do one more. No. You boys get them dishes done, or you're gonna do them by yourself, Jerys. Yeah. He's still playing away. Pretty soon Geraldine comes down. You boys, you're gonna do them by yourself. And Jerys went around me. Geraldine was there. I was standing here, and Jerys come through me. I don't know how he got through me, around under the table, and into the sink. Just like that. And so I go back there, I pick up the towel, go wipe the dish, or dry the dishes. Geraldine's still coming after Jerys, but we're both over there doing the dishes like we were told. She grabs me by the shoulder and says, you're coming with me. I don't go bad on my word. He's doing them all by himself. So she takes me upstairs, I get the pie and the ice cream. He gets to come and get the dishes and go on to And how mischievous he was. He comes by the farm to help me do chores in the morning. Because it was a weekend after duck season. And he got home from college. And his mom said he was going to make all his ducks up that he had for when he was hunting. Well, he kind of said, yeah, I told Mom I was hunting, but I was really at Dolls, so I need some ducks. Is your creek full of ducks? They were, yeah. So, Uncle Rod, he sees us go down to feed the cows in the hills down the creek with Bale back to pick up. He comes walking over, he says, here boys, you're going to need this. And I go, I got one. He says, no, Jerys needs one too. Because he says, you guys are gonna end up in a snowbank. And I'll go plug the 4-wheel drive tractor in, because if you can't dig out with those 2 shovels, it'll take a 4-wheel drive tractor to get you. So we take off down there. Yep, there's a coyote. And I says, I got my pop. Jerry says, his window's coming down. He says, here, I got it. Both pops go out the window. He says, go, go, go. And we top the hill, and I go, uh-oh. Woof. Put it this way. We had to crawl out the windows to get out of the pit. So we dig our way out. And we finally get down to the creek. Yep, we get a few ducks. Only a little over 50 and 5 shots. So we go home, we clean them up and whatever. So that was just out of high school. And then he come home for Thanksgiving the year before Geraldine passed. And he come in, and it was the eve before Thanksgiving, and he comes in the house, and Mom's having supper, and we have ice cream after supper, and he sits down, and he says, yeah, Brian, I need a little help. And my dad was sitting in the living room, and he says, Jerys, you're not hanging them deer here. And he says, oh, I better go. And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know, they're in the trunk. And he was supposed to be hunting there too, but he was at camp. During the season, so he had to make up for it after the season.
And it's hard not to watch the pictures and then just be like, okay, I know mesmerized by those, but I'll share my story. One of my favorite stories, and one where Jerys was a blessing. We would meet up at baseball games and just watch baseball. And I remember Donnell and Jerys were there one night, and we just got talking about turkey and smoking turkey. And we were just, how long do you think it'd take to smoke a turkey? 23 hours, so something like this, some ridiculous time. Like, well, what would you do if you smoked a turkey? I didn't have a smoker at the time. And I was pretty convinced that I knew exactly what I would do. I said, well, I think I do it this way, and I'd make sure it turned out really good. That sounds like a good plan. Maybe I should have smoked a turkey sometime. I said, well, a little rough for me to run out of the smoker. And he's like, yeah, that would be a little tough, wouldn't it? And so a couple days went by, and we came home one day. We were out of town after that. Came home. And my girls went upstairs. We lived, and what is that, 11? Yeah, we lived on 11. And we came home, and one of my girls was like, Dad, there is a grill on the deck. And I'm like, yeah, there is. We have a grill. It's there on the deck. No, there's a grill at the, I told you this. So we went back and forth like 6 times. I'm like, honey, you're stating the obvious. I know there's a grill. No, there's a big box on the deck. And I went outside, and there was a Traeger smoker. There were 2 bags of pellets. There was a cover, and that now resides at my friend Todd's house because my wife gave me permission to buy another bigger smoker, which is a beautiful thing. But at that moment, cemented in my mind as one of the most amazing things that anyone had done for me up until that point. And I remember calling him and I'm like, what's going on here, man? What's this about? He's like, I don't know. You have to ask Don. To me, that continued to cement how grateful I was to just even be a part of his life, and what a blessing he was to me. Because it was just random phone conversations or random moments we would bump into each other somewhere. And just would be encouraging. He always looked at me like, okay, hey, pastor, okay, let's talk about something, pastor. I got a question, whatever. And I was always up for it. And I don't know for you, I don't know what those conversations look like, those memories look like, those ways that he blessed you. But yeah, I want to just be intentional with our time, but I also want to give you a moment to have that. And doesn't have to be about dead ducks or dead animals in the trunk. But if you got those, that's awesome. So I'll get it back up here for a little bit more.
We can go back to him getting stuck. He used to, the year we had snow over in Sydney, he came out, him and Lenny, and I don't know who all bought snowmobiles, but I should have had him on Life 360, so I just knew where to go with the payloader and pick up the pieces. Because one time he called me, he goes, I hit a rock, I might need some help. And so I said, should I bring the loader? Yeah, that'd be good. You know, there's pieces everywhere. Well, we'll take it back to shop while you guys are gone and we'll fix it. We just hauled it back to town. I mean, it was just, he was the greatest friend and just loved the guy. He was just on the go all the time, wanting to do stuff, and that was the best part.
I'm Jake Godfrey. I've worked with Jerys since December of 2000 in different capacities. And we started out as competitors. I was selling wholesale ag chem for Helena, and he was selling wholesale ag chem for UAP. And about 12 years ago, or a few years after that, I guess, he joined Valley Crop Care and became a customer of mine. So I had to call on my former competitor as a customer, which was not any fun at all. And then 12 years ago, he joined Helena as our manager and salesperson out of Sydney and Glasgow, and that's where I preferred him the most, and I'm sure gonna miss him. Just be thinking of you guys and family, but we're sure gonna miss him. He'll be missed by a lot.
I'm Patty Stephen, and Tom. But anyway, we live in Arizona, and one of my last memories of Jerys, we came up to Tom, and I stayed with Tom and Vicki, and we were gonna meet Jerys for lunch, and that was at Thanksgiving, and I didn't really know, like, I thought he might be a little under the weather and not really feeling very well, so, I didn't know what to expect, but, he was doing pretty good then. But we came up, remember when we came around to Tammy's house? Tammy has like a hill going up her house, and Jerys is on electric bike, I'm not kidding, going maybe 30 miles an hour with golf clubs on his back. Because he was supposed to be home by a certain time because we were going to go for lunch. And I'm like, oh, okay. and that's what I'm going to just remember, like being on the go. He was just, he didn't even know how much time. Did he go hit some balls or something really quick before we came? And
Oh, I think that, yeah.
yeah, remember that? And he was going so fast. I'm like, oh my God, he needs to slow down. And his electric bike was awesome. But that's what I'm just going to remember. And I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him living far away, but yeah, he was a great guy. And I know he loved and I'm so proud of all of you and thinking all you guys. So that's all.
It was amazing how Jerys went overboard. When Don brings up the bikes, when Jerys there, when was that time when we got the first bike.
Last year, was it
Yeah,
last year?
it was when he started getting sick, but anyway, he was gonna start, exercising. So he gets a bike, and I said, and he goes, and Tom, you're gonna come exercise with me. First of all, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to exercise. I'm good. I mean, but it was so funny, because everything he did, it had to be, big. So he gets one, and then he keeps telling me, well, you're gonna have to ride a bike. You gotta get in shape. You gotta be like me, basically. And then pretty soon he's got 2, and then 3, and then was it 4 or 5?
4 or 5.
Okay, and then to follow along on that story, then the kids all came down for Christmas. Was it Christmas or Thanksgiving? Christmas. And he wanted everybody on the bikes. Everybody. I mean, and he was, he said, okay, everybody, when you get here, we're gonna all get on the bikes and we're gonna ride. Lexi, Kiana, Raj, and everybody's like, whatever. And then Jerys would come, we had coffee every morning, and Jerys would come in the mornings, and so I don't know what the hell's wrong with the kids. He said, nobody wants to ride bikes. I bought $5,000 worth of bikes, and he said, you suppose one of them kids will ride with me? He'd say, Tammy won't ride with me. And then, so he goes riding with Kiana, I believe it was, and up in the mountain, or up in the hills there. And I don't remember how it all worked out, but anyway, he sends me a text, and he goes, yeah, my bike fell over. Something like that. And where did he got just, what happened? Yeah, he was on the rock, and he thought he could never hardly rode a bike in his life. And he was going, it wasn't even going to run around where we lived down there on the nice even pass. He goes, I gotta go rock climb. And I'm like, what are you doing here? So then he fell off the bike, and then he blamed the terrain or the rock. Yeah, it's like, what's wrong with that? He said, if that rock wasn't sitting there. and then we were eating one day, this is all on the bike story, but another time, and some of the friends of mine and Jerys's where we live, they were going, Jerys, are you really getting a lot of exercise with these bikes? And he said, it's unreal. He said, I can really tell it. He said, and this was before Jerys was losing weight, of course. And they go, I got one of my friends' name is Jim, and Jim goes, well, it doesn't really look like until they walk away. And the guy goes, is that bike for pedaling, or is it electric? And Jerys said, well, it's electric, but I hardly ever use the electric. And honestly, he would come up to our house, and every time he'd come and visit us, I'd see him coming around the corner. He'd have one of the little pucks in the basket, and I would watch him come around the corner, and he'd have the button going, and then when I would look out, and pretty soon he'd take it. And after he'd come in, he'd say, oh my gosh, you guys ain't water ain't on. I got other stories, but I'll leave it at that for now. But anyway, I'll really miss Jerys. I mean, he was a brother to me, not biologically, but Jerys was a brother to me. I loved him, and I'm so sorry, Tammy, for you and the kids. We're always here for you. Oh, one more. So I want to get back to work here. Okay? So it was crazy. Every day we'd have, and this is when he was getting sick towards the end, but farmers would call, and it was unreal, because Jerys would walk into where we had coffee, and it would be going like this, and I could tell he was so uncomfortable towards the end. We had all the stomach issues and stuff, the pains, and we'd sit down, start drinking our coffee and whatever, order a donut or whatever, but a farmer would call, and, you know, he'd be kind of sitting there and go, how do you feel, Jerys? And he'd go, a little rough, kind of the same thing. He said, my stupid, stomach hurts, and, I don't know. And then he goes, I might sneak out of here, Tom. If I get up and go, it's because I don't feel good. And I said, well, don't worry, Jerys. If you don't feel good, go. Then pretty soon, the old Helena phone would ring, and hello, this is Jerys. I mean, it's just like a different guy. And the farmers would always ask the same thing. How you feeling, Jerys? Never been better. It was always that same thing. It was never been better. What can I help you with? And I mean, even in his sickest times, that man would answer his phone, get back to his customers, even up to the end there. And I have to give him a lot of credit. And towards the end, he went on short-term disability, and Helena was going to shut his computer off and his phone and stuff like that. And I remember going into the hospital one morning, and I said, how you doing, Jerys? Well, good. He said, but that stupid HR lady, whatever her name was, she said, she's gonna shut my computer off. So I said, well, you're on short-term disability, Jerys. You don't need your phone and you don't need your computer. They don't want you to work. You're on short-term disability. Yeah, but I gotta keep track of what's going on. Basically, if I pull out of this, I gotta know what's on my computer. I can't lose track. He goes, the guy just never quit. Right up till the end. Wow, I better quit there. I can stand here for an hour and tell stories. Anyway.
So for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Jerys' son-in-law. Fortunately, I'm married to Mini Jerys. Most people that know my background, I lost my parents when I was 19, and when I had to marry into, luckily I kept my last name when I got into the family, but no, in the last 8 years I was with the family, Jerys has been the dad I needed. He was the dad I always wanted. Took care of me, took care of my kids, took care of Lexi, and was just the role model that I could have asked for. And I'm thankful for every memory I have with him. You'll notice as we go through the photos, we get to a point where all the family's in the photos. I'm the one taking them, and then I actually start to get into the photos. But it was two stories that I'll never forget with Jerys. The first time I met him, I got set up by Lexi. She said, "Come to a Keyword game, and we're going to watch the game." I sat down, not knowing who was with us and whatnot. He sat right behind me the whole time, and I could just feel him, just darts like going through me. And then just always was Papa Bear taking care of his kids, and then he would do anything for them and their grandkids and any one of us for sure. And one of the funniest times I had with him was on our wedding day in Jamaica. He walks up, Lexi comes out, he got allergies, so his eyes started watering up a little bit. But she's walking down the aisle and coming up to me, and clear as day to me and Rise, and goes, "There's still time. You can But as soon as you sign, she's yours and there's no giving back." But that's just who he was, and I'm thankful for the man that he's made me.
Another about. I was going to say one more about, Jerys here 3, 4, 5 years, maybe it's 5 years ago now, but he got into kick on these motorhomes here, camping motorhome. And he just had to have it, so he was calling every day. He called me and sent me texts of this motorhome, this one's better than this one's longer, this one's wider. And I said, is Tammy pretty interested in going in a motorhome? And she goes, no, she hates it. He said, I'll guarantee you one thing, if I buy this motorhome, he said, she will like it. and so we went down to, was it down by Garrison?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to Garrison and found a motorhome that was being sold online, and Jerys bought it right on the spot. Looked it over, he goes, yep, I love that. He said, that's what we want. And were you with Tammy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember looking around going, what do you think, Tammy? And you're like, well, you know, and he goes, yeah, you love it, don't you? And Tammy, I think he whispered to me, well, I kind of don't like the color. And she said, it's a little bit old. And Jerys goes, you like it, Tammy? Tammy still said, yeah, he said, yeah, I think we'll take it. We'll take it. And then, along with this motorhome deal, so then he brought it one year down to Arizona. And he called me up and he said, Vicki and I were down there for the winter, and he said, hey, Tom, I'm going to take that motorhome. Tam and I are heading down. And I said, really? Tammy wants to go? Yeah, she's going. And I said, okay. I said, great. They said, let us know which way you're going. We'll keep track of you and stuff. And pretty soon he called me and he said, yeah, I'm on the road heading down. And I said, great. They said, are you going to let Tammy drive any, or are you going to do all the driving? And he said, she's not in here. I said, where's she at? At home. I told her, I said, you don't want to get in the motorhome? He said, I don't know how he said it, but the ship's leaving. And he said, if you don't get in, Tammy was like, bye-bye. So then he called me and he said, I'm coming. And so here he pulls in down there, and I think we went up and had coffee one day, and all the guys were saying, well, I thought you were going to bring your wife along. And he goes, well, I don't know, she's had some issues or something. I'll guarantee you, once she knows how much fun it is down here, she will be coming. And he goes, I'll get on the phone to her, and I think you two did fly down, but he said they're flying down. Once Tammy is used to the motorhome, she'll love it. So they come down, and Tammy stayed there, 3-4 nights or whatever in Lexi. And I asked Tammy, I said, what do you think of it? He goes, don't like it at all, she said. Can't stand it, And so then we got talking about it the next morning, or one of the mornings afterwards up at our coffee club there. The guy said, well, did you talk your wife into them staying with you? And he goes, well, something must be wrong with her, And he goes, she just ticks me off. I just get so dang mad at her. But, and he told us that all of us guys sitting at the table, but he goes, I guess if she goes back, I'm just going to stay down there. But I love that gal anyway. So, he wanted Tammy to do things with him, but Tammy just had no interest. And it was always that same thing. He goes, he told me and my coffee buddies, I'll guarantee you, she will come when I put the law down. and he said that with the kids too, all the time. He said, they will listen. I'll guarantee you, John will do this, Lex will do this, Ryan will do this. And then they wouldn't do it, and Jerys would go, whatever.
I don't know what's wrong with
Yeah, he goes, I don't know what's wrong with him. He said, it's like their mother, Like the same thing at the end, then he'd say the same thing. But I love the kids to death, and I love my wife to death. So, anyway, that's another thing.
Your story made me think of it. Okay. So Dad, you guys know how the type of salesman he was and trying to get the best deal and stuff. This one time he bought me a car. And I went with him. This black car. I didn't go. And I was so uncomfortable. Anytime buying anything from him was so uncomfortable because he was trying to get the best deal. This one time he bought my vehicle and he's like, hurry up, Lex, let's go. Come on. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, come on, it just cost that guy his job. I'm like, what? So I was
car, and he bragged to me, he came to the house, and to all of us, he said, I basically stole that. I said, really? He said, because I worked that salesman over. He said, same thing, he said, I don't know if he's even gonna have a job. So then, Jerry said, I booked it out, he said, look at here, I looked under NADA, this is the price, all the stuff, and I said, is it four-wheel drive? Is it four-wheel drive? Because you're looking on the four-wheel drive one, he goes, he goes, I gotta go talk to him, that guy screwed me. So there was never a dull moment with Jerry.
My name's Patrick Harrison. I don't know a lot in the room, but there's some old friends. I moved to Williston when about 15 years ago and got to know the Engets real well. Jerys was a customer of mine, so although I didn't lose my job selling to him, some days I wanted to. But we were actually competitors, Jake and I, back in the room trying to sell Jerys, and I remember more than once, and he was probably doing the exact same thing to you, where I was trying to earn an order for $100, and he'd call me and say, well, you know, Jake's at 98, and I'd say, well, meet me in the middle at 99, and he said, how about 97? And then the one memory that popped in my mind while I sat here was about, like, maybe 5 years ago I was in town, and we were having breakfast at Grandma Sharon's, which was pretty common when I lived in Williston. And we were sitting there having breakfast, and there was a couple members of the Williston Police Department next door, and he buys them breakfast. So we get done, we're still chatting, and these guys get up to go pay, and they find out, you know, Jerys is buying breakfast. And the guys come by just politely on their way out and say thanks, and he goes, yeah, remember that next time I'm driving through Trenton. Jerys made me laugh all the time. I'm gonna miss the abbreviated times that we caught up over the last decade that I've been out of Williston. But so sorry for your guys' loss. You know, I'll miss him.
You know that every time that he went to lunch, you know, it was just cracking all the time, you know, give us girls a hard time. I mean, in his all self-humor, you know. It was kind of in the beginning a little hard for me for the language barrier. And sometimes you have to explain the jokes, and what's your Spanish joke? It's not a joke anymore, right? But always really nice, you know. I have the pleasure to work with Kiana over at the Mexican restaurant, and you know, with you guys over the years with Lonnie's, and always at every event that is in town, you know, with the snow cones and everything. He's a really good guy. He will be missed. And
Well, I guess I just have to fill in for, my wife mentioned the fire siren in Epi. Every time that go off, well, we had our little go-to shack, which was the old horse-drawn school bus. And it has a little stove in there, a little wood stove in there to keep everybody warm in the wintertime. So Jerys always had to have a fire in there. So when that thing would start smoking, well, guess what? The fire phone would go off. Well, there we go, Jerys, around the corner, through, all the way up the house, and then down across, back into his house, and he'd always come in from the west. Well, I wasn't over there long. So anyway, that night we got done, or he got done washing the dishes, and we go out the door, and Sharon met us at the door, and Geraldine says, "You boys, you're both gonna get a licking if that fire phone, or that fire siren goes off." And we no more than shut the door and take one step down on the deck, and the siren goes off, and it goes off, and Jerys goes, "Well, let's go. We might as well take our licking now before it quits ringing." So we turn around, we go walking in, and Geraldine and Sharon are just sitting there busted out laughing when we walk back through the door. Needless to say, we didn't get a lick in that time.
I'm sure with you two boys, you got plenty.
Oh, yeah.
I was pretty shy, but I grew up on ways of one a lot when I was younger, because he was a basketball player. And that's kind of what I analyzed of myself from him, and he always played with me all the time when I was in my grandmother and his house. And then when I moved to Sydney to live with my dad, him and Jenny and Leslie were living there. And he'd come pick me up and we'd go shoot hoops across the street. They had a house on the corner of the apartments. And that's not the last memories I have of him, because after that he kind of lost touch with each other. But I just idolized him growing up because he's just a badass basketball player.
I'll kind of carry on about his sports story. Jerys loves sports. He attended all of his kids' activities, and I got to be his godmother, and he attended a lot of mine. But one that has stuck out in my brain from him coming to was, it was districts and raids, so Tammy and Jerys made the trip down, and it was second set maybe, and I didn't get to play this full game because I tore my PCL during this game, and I was so mad on the bench. And my mom knew I was mad, Jerry knew I was mad, everybody knew I was mad when I came off the court. And the first person I hit when I hit the bleachers was Jerry. And I was mad, I was crying, I was like, they wouldn't let me go back in. And he goes, well, why didn't you make them go back in? Why didn't you just sub yourself back in? And he goes, and then I was like, well, something's wrong with my leg, I don't know what it is. And he goes, well, do I need to cut it off? What pig leg, or what do I need to do? And all I have to say about Jerry is he knows how to make a bad situation be a really good situation, and you're always laughing by the end of it.
There was a time when Geraldine and Sharon Alexander were at Hughes Furniture Store. Jerry wasn't in school yet. My mom lived right on East Broadway. The kids were always over at her house too. Anyways, they were, I don't know who was looking for furniture, but the ladies were there with Jerry. And I called Geraldine too. So as the tubes turned around and Jerry is laying on a glass coffee table holder. And she goes, Sharon, get your kid. Hurry up, let's go, let's get out of here. And she couldn't get Jerry off the table, he was acting up. He did that all the time. And then poor Tori he couldn't talk forever because Jerry talked for him. Exactly. Tori never said anything. Tori wants to. This is what you're having for breakfast.
You've got to have a few more, Lexi. How about when he chased you down the stairs and busted through your door?
Yeah, so there was this one time, and now when I think back, because I have a 14-year-old, all the way up to a 1.5-year-old, I did deserve a lot of what I got in trouble for. Especially the mouthing off. Well, this one time, I mouthed off to him and said something about, I'm gonna call CPS. So we had just redid our downstairs bathroom, and we had probably, what, like 25 steps going down the stairs? Yeah, and he knew the step amount. He didn't miss a single step chasing me down, and he busted through the door, and oh man, it was on. But another funny story that I have that he probably would not admit to many people is he was in there for both of my births of my boys. to the point where he filmed the first one. I remember him in there, and I was like, Dad, do you want to be in there? We have no, there's no filter, there's nothing. And I said, Dad, do you want to film? Are you kidding me? Yeah. And so he was sitting on the whatever, and I start pushing, and he's like, okay, go, Lex. And you just hear him on the video, yeah, there you go, Lex. And then afterwards, he's like, oh God, I did do that, didn't I? There was no privacy, there was no, he knew everything. Many times of me getting in trouble.
Anything with, how about all the Jerys time when you guys kind of would argue and fight? Any of them stick out?
I worked for Jerys for one season, and that's all I was helping shave right next to Jerys, and I was between Jerys and Lexi. No matter what, I wasn't good to the left and I wasn't good to the right. From there, I just ran blocks every season after that. And one of the first years they did a deal at the airport. We had Lexi and I, our first kid together, and so he was only like 6 months old. I had told Jerys like 20 times before that it was going to be busy.
He was like only 3 months old.
Yeah, like I told him that the airport thing was going to be busy. Nah, it'll be all right. We'll just take like 2 cases with us. Sure enough, calls me 1 hour in and says they're out. And so I get everything loaded up, and so I have 2 coolers full of like 60 blocks of ice and my 3-month-old in a car seat. And the closest I could get was like 3 football fields away. So I'm dragging all of this stuff, and I get all the way up to the thing. I give him the ice, and he just says, "What took you so long?" I grabbed my kid and I just walked away.
Yeah, there was many times where it was me, Mom, and Dad, and me and Dad would go at it because I did not back down to him. When he was mouthy, I was just even more mouthy.
I think that's because you're 2 right there.
And there was many times where I would be mouthing off, and he'd look at Mom and say, "Take care of her." I'm not, he would say. I'm not dealing with her.
You earned it, honestly.
Well, that is, yeah. Lenny, you gotta have a good one.
I can't talk.
Don?
Put them every night.
Lenny can talk, but it was amazing. Two things. I couldn't believe because I was in the egg business too, and I couldn't believe the way he could treat his customers that time. It was just, we'd be sitting there, and a guy would call him and say, hey, Jerys, first of all, he'd call him at 7 in the morning, and back here at Graham Insurance or whatever. And the guy called, and Jerys goes, do you know what time it is? And the guy would go, it's 6 o'clock over here, 7 your time. Yeah, what do you think I'm doing at 7 in the morning? I'm sitting there, I'm feeling like, wow. He goes, I'm having breakfast. He goes, what do you want? And I said, well, I got a question of whatever. It doesn't matter the chemical or whatever. Got a question, just a quick, okay, what is it? And I couldn't believe how he could act that way, but all them farmers, the way he treated them, but yet he do anything for any of them, and it worked for him. It was his personality, it was just, I've never seen anyone else. Most people, if I tried to treat someone, I didn't have that humor like yours, but if I treated someone like that, they'd sell me out in a second, they'd go, I don't want to buy from that retard. But Jerys got away with it.
I remember him many times, the phone would ring, he's like, not now, Gary, yeah, not now. Not now.
Exactly.
I'm like, who's Gary? He's like, not now.
And other times you pick it up and you go, you've got to be kidding me. You're calling me right now. What do you want?
I love the way he always.
And then go ahead.
No, you're good.
Anyway, he had this way with, we had a friend down there, her name was Marsha in Arizona. And she she's probably 88 or whatever. Well, Jerys, you know, first time he met her, I introduced him, you know, and he goes, "Hey, sugar lips, how you doing?" And Marcia just fell in love with him. You know, he didn't say anything, you know, he just kind of sugar lips, you know, and she just grabbed Jerys out of him, and he could just, with his personality, he could get by it with anything, you know, say to anybody. That was a unique characteristic Jerys had.
So how many times do you embarrass you, Daddy?
Oh, you didn't even affect
Per
me.
day.
Yeah.
Per day.
Per day.
The when?
Per day.
How many times per
Oh,
day?
I was so used to it.
Talking about-
I used, when you go into a car dealership, I would go in furniture
That's-
stuff, and I would absolutely do it on.
Travis talking as neighbors. Oh, shoot. She talks about being embarrassed about Jerys going to the car dealers and stuff. And there's lots of times she's walking away, she just walking away. She couldn't handle it. I'm gonna miss it.
You know, Tom talks about, I'm one of the farmers, he'd say, what?
I didn't even see you sit there. I'm glad I didn't say a story that.
I went into his office one day and I needed to get some chemical and he looked at me in the chair and he goes, God, you're a dumbass. He said, well, he's not only you're a dumbass, but you're a cheap asshole. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And he goes, well, you put the water to this stuff. Water's cheap. And he started yelling at me about the water thing, and I went, all right. He goes, get out of my office, too. I'll have her in the dock for you when you leave. He said.
I couldn't even tell you how many times you finally got her down. And when he was talking about, yeah, this is selling a chemical, I never got that reply. I was, what do you want? I said, tell him what told me. Can't find her, whatever. So I'm Matt Stedman. I've known Jerys pretty much my whole life. Grew up with Rocky, and Jerys were very, very, very close. And I got very close, especially after Rocky passed. Jerys has been like another father to me. Last 5 years, I'm really been missing. But I got a couple just Jerys stories. Too many that are probably inappropriate, but I got So I get out of college and I get this border collie, and he just gets so aggravated because this border collie being here, and this is before they had dogs. He goes, get that porch pisser out of my office. So I'd send him out of the office, and every time he'd always go pee on Jerry's stuff. You see what I mean? Where do you have that dog? You just throw it. And when they got their first dog, I said, Jerys, I thought you hated dogs. What do you mean? I just thought I was the dumbest. He didn't have one. Then he had two. And then he had another. And then he had all these fur bears. Like, Jerys, do you remember that time you hated all dogs? I mean, that was a thing. And the story all changed. You know, it was just all in when he was in. You know. I don't know. Jerys was a lot of things, and he was always the light of the room too, right? It didn't matter where you're at. Came down and visited Tammy and Jerys this winter when he wasn't doing so good. You come to the coffee shop and oh my God, everybody in there, including the police officer sitting in the corner, and Jerys was there. You know,
I think when we had coffee down there in the sheep camp, he bought coffee. So I'm not trying to tell the story.
That was the best too, and he genuinely, he was the most generous person you've ever met in your life. I mean, you would have thought that. So he legitimately forgets his wallet. We're going in there, and he's walking out, going, hurry up, Tom! We're not parking up there. And I just met Tom. He's just brazen it because we had parked for it, or they were having like was it a parade or something?
Yeah.
So we couldn't get by the deal. You'll be fine, Tom. Hurry up! He's 5 clicks ahead of Tom, and I were Dad's like, oh shit, I forgot my watch. Are you gonna buy mine? Say absolutely. So we buy ours, and all of a sudden he's buying a police officer. And what's so funny about it is he's so nonchalant, and then the rest of the week you couldn't pay for another thing. It was like a fight, and he was so he was just all in. I mean, when he had his circle of people, he was just all in, and he wanted you to have the best time. Whether he was tired or anything, he had a whole schedule of events planned, what we were going to do while we were down there, what he wanted to see. You know, you could tell when he was getting tired. After, nope, we got more things to see. I'll really miss him. He was an amazing person. He just genuinely was. And my heart goes out for his family. I gotta say, I didn't get to know Tammy real well until later, you know, and all I ever heard was, Tammy's gotta be saved. I can't do this. And some of the most ridiculous things, and even I are a lot like, my friends will attest, like, I can't believe that came out of Matt's mouth. Just the same way. And Tammy, she'd be like, oh, Jerys. People would be red, and poor Tammy was just used to it. I just got out of school, and it's winter time, and Lexi was actually playing a basketball game. And I remember coming probably at halftime or something, maybe towards the end of the game, and telling Jerry, like, your daughter's a nice player. You should tell her she needs to shoot the ball more. He goes, oh, Jesus Christ. I don't understand what's wrong with her. I was shooting before I got out of the locker. He was awesome. You know, I was just Jerys.
I worked for Jerys for a while. That's just a couple years. I don't think he's ever been wrong. I think everybody would agree with that. I don't think he's ever admitted his wrong or fault once. He could be dead on, like, he could be like, so that stop sign's green. You're like, okay, good for you, Jerys. I'll myself. Yeah, he's done so much for my life. Definitely would be willing to take and stuff like that. You guys.
I remember many times he'd say, Caleb needs ice cream one more time. I said, "Bring some product up."
You guys got mad at me for all the stuff we made. So, yeah. I think one time, and I'm a generous thing too, you'd always pay for my meals and stuff like that, but one time I paid for you guys at Applebee's. And I was sitting next to him, he goes, you're done. Why would you do that? You get so mad every time I try to do it.
Didn't he always try to get Caleb together with one of the position girls? He was always trying to match me.
Yeah, any female that worked at Jerry's like, oh, how this one? Every single one.
I had to be careful there because I wasn't serious.
Tom, you good? So make sure. I love that.
Can I come up there?
I think the reality of heart medicine is just one of those beautiful things. The laughter that makes us be reminded, and it's true. I think people can get away, because I've known this and seen this in my life, people can get away with saying the things they did like Jerys did because genuinely they knew that Jerys was going to do whatever he needed to do for him. Whether it was in a pinch or at a moment that he wasn't ready, he was going to get it done because he was a man of his word. He just did it. No matter how many times Tammy rolled her eyes. And she did a lot. And I mean, I was just even thinking about this a second ago, like moments where you guys started coming to church and you'd be like, oh, this is such a good message. Whether Pastor Mike or whoever was preaching, oh, that was just a great day today. And he'd be like, yeah, it was all right. And he'd be saying, yeah, thanks, man. So good to be there. Thanks. No, that's I love it. Share those stories, and I know there are more. I know there's a lot more. But what I would encourage, and I'll say this tomorrow too, you're here, it's awesome. Be here in 2 months. When you think about it, drop a note, send a text, and let's get Tammy a new playlist where she doesn't have to think about moments to be encouraged, but just moments to celebrate and just be reminded of living life. All those things that we can be an encouragement to them and cheer them on in this next phase and these next stages. And yeah, we're with you. And we love you guys. So we're going to see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I think the family will be there around 1:30. Family, if you're going to be there, we'll try to keep you in the loop about where we're going to meet before we go in, so that you can know where to go. There will be time afterwards, time to share stories and hear other people share that are going to come and be a part of that celebration. So I just want to close in prayer, and then we'll go from there. So would you join me? Heavenly Father, in this room is just a vast representation of Jerry's life and Jerry's the impact that he had on so many, the moments of laughter, the moments of just making you shake your head, the moments of just being reminded that you had somebody in your corner always. God, the amazing reality of the people that you place in our life that can be hands and feet, that can be inspiration, that can be an encourager, that can be a father figure, that can be a great friend, and then a complete stranger that becomes somebody that you care so passionately and deeply about. God, thank you for those people that you place in our life. Thank you for his life. And thank you that even in the midst of the battle, even in the midst of these last 11 months of just unknowns, man, he has battled, he has fought, he has run a race well. And thank you for the ways that he inspired even in the midst of pain. And it could have been easy to just take the L, but he fought, he reached out, he did life, he chose to live. And we're thankful for that. Thanks for the way that the family has battled alongside him. This, you don't battle alone. And just everybody that has rallied around them and encouraged them. God, help us to continue to be that. We love you, God. We thank you for this time. We thank you for everyone here. And we look forward to celebrating a little bit more tomorrow. We pray this all in your name. Amen. Thanks again for coming. Thanks for being here and being part of this time.
Hiding out east, over in the back.